Hey humans, I'm going to make some buns today. We're going to need to basically just throw all dry ingredients into a bowl, add our wet ingredients, and get going. I'm using instant yeast for this recipe, but if you only have the dry active or the traditional yeast or whatever is labeled on the package that you have, you're going to have to bloom the yeast first, or proof the yeast first. So what that means is take your dry yeast and drop it in your warm water, add a little bit of sugar, and then just let it sit there for about 10 minutes until it gets all puffy and that sort of stuff. If it doesn't get all puffy and foamy and frothy, then your yeast is no good, and you're going to have to get different yeast, which is hard to come by here these days. Anyhow, this is the instant. Oh, you're going to need 25% more too. So if the recipe calls for instant yeast, and all you have is the dry active, then you're going to need to add 25% more of whatever the recipe's calling for. So in this case, it's a tablespoon of instant yeast. With the dry active, you would need 1¼ tablespoons of the dry yeast. Yeah, you're always going to want to use warm water, because if the water's too hot, you're going to kill the yeast. And if it's too cold, the yeast isn't really going to do. It'll work, but it's just going to take a little longer. So I got 2 cups of flour in here. I'm going to add another 1.5 cups of flour. And I'm actually not going to add all of the flour that I need, because it's easier to incorporate more flour into the batter or into the dough than it is to incorporate more water. So hold some of the flour back, and then if your dough is too wet, then just add a bit more flour. So I'm going to put in, it calls for 3.5 this recipe. I'm just going to put in about 3¼ for right now. And if I need to add the other quarter, then I will. Okay, so there's your flour, tablespoon of yeast, and I've got this instant, so you can add it just directly to the flour mix. Okay. We need 1/4 cup of sugar. So the sugar is going to, or the yeast is going to feed on the sugar. So that's a good thing for the yeast anyway. That goes in there. It's quite a bit of sugar. It's going to make it kind of a sweeter dough, but that's fine. And then I need about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 1¼ teaspoons actually. So there's that, and then 1/4. And 2 tablespoons of room temp butter. I'm just going to stir this around first actually. Use a wooden spoon for this. It's not just for beating your kids anymore.
What?
Shh. You know, things were different back then. Yeah. All right, and then 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to add that directly into there. And then I got a cup to, you're going to add about 1 cup of water, warm water or something like that. Get most of that in there. And then we're going to crack an egg in. Alright. And then I saved a bit of the water just in case I might need some more. If you have a stand mixer, then you just dump all the ingredients into the stand mixer, turn it on at like 2nd speed, and let it knead for about 8 minutes or so. And if it looks too wet, add a bit more flour, and if it's too dry, you're going to have to add a bit more water. But like I said, it's easier to add flour to the mix than it is to add water. So, alright, get all this stuff out of the way, and we'll get to kneading. Here's your spoon, kind of just get it started. Once the dough comes together, you're going to just dump it on your work surface here and continue to knead it by hand for a while. and then it's going to take some time to proof as well. So what I did is put a bowl of water in my oven, turn the oven on the lowest setting, and just heated up the oven to the lowest setting, which was 170, and then turn the oven off. And then I'm going to use that warm oven to help proof the bread. Dump it out and just start bringing it together. You kind of just pull it towards yourself, fold it in half, and then with the heel of your hands, push down and away. And then rotate 90 degrees, fold it in half, push down and away. And then just keep doing that until you have a nice smooth dough. But this is going to take a while. You're gonna have to do this for a bit in order for it all to come together. So it's not actually going to take up the rest of this flour. I can feel that. So if that's the case, just get rid of the excess. So it looks like 3 cups of flour would have been enough for this particular recipe, but then I'm basically just going to do this for the next 10 minutes. So folding in half, push down, and then pull away. 90 degrees. And just keep doing that until you have a nice smooth dough. Okay, so I've been at this, I don't know, 8 minutes or so. And the dough has come together nicely. It's really smooth. Okay. Like that. Nice smooth dough. Alright. And then, like I said, this has to sit and proof for maybe an hour until it's like doubled in size. So this freshly washed bowl, I'm going to put a drop of oil in here. Kind of smear that around the bowl. Get your dough ball in. Flip it. Okay. And then wrap that with saran wrap. And then put it in the oven, or a warm place in your general region, and let it sit for about an hour or so. And then once it's proofed, we'll cut it into portions. This recipe will make 8 buns, by the way. And yeah, I'll show you the rest of the steps. Okay, see ya. Okay, so my dough's had about 50 minutes to proof, and it's doubled in size quite a bit. So what I'm going to do now is just dump it out into our work table, and then cut it into 8 equal pieces, and roll them out, flatten them, and get, well, we're actually going to have to proof for another little bit. And we just want to knock some of the air out a little bit, and keep the dough covered with some saran wrap or something along those lines, just so that it doesn't dry out. So I'm basically just going to split this into quarters first, and then each quarter into half, and then I've got my 8 pieces. And they should be roughly the same size. I mean, it's not the end of the world if one's a bit bigger than the other. Okay. So remove these over here and just work one piece at a time. Like I said, I'm going to keep the rest of these covered while I'm working on one. Okay. So there you go. You got your piece there. I kind of just like to flatten it out into a bit of a disc like that, and then pinch the ends. All right, to make a little pinch like that, and the top is smooth still. Okay. Roll that into a ball. Just rolling the dough in between my fingers, so I'm not pressing down or applying too much pressure or anything like that. All right, and then you have a nice tight bun. Who doesn't like tight buns? Okay, so from here, I'm just going to use the palm of my hand, this part right here, and press down to make about a 3-inch disc or so. Depends on how big you want your buns, I guess, but so I would say that's probably a good size right there. Right? About the size of my palm. And it'll shrink up a little bit, like it'll want to come back together a bit. But so you take that. I got a tray with some parchment paper on it, and I'm going to get 4 buns on here. So I'm just going to quickly bang through the rest of these, and then I'm going to put these back in the oven actually to proof for another, I don't know, 20-30 minutes, and then I'll bake them. Okay, so that's all 8 buns done. I'm just going to cover them with some plastic wrap again, and then put them back in the oven where it was proofing before, and let it rest for 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, and then I'm going to brush it with an egg wash and put some sesame seeds on it, and we'll bake the buns. Buns that I rolled out have had about 25 minutes in the oven to proof up again. I'm just going to brush them with an egg wash and sprinkle some sesame seeds on top, and then bake it in a 375 oven for 15 to 19 minutes, and then just rotate the pan halfway through the cooking, and you're good to go. Should have some nice buns. Okay. You kind of want to be gentle here when you're egg washing, and cover the whole surface, and that'll give it your buns a nice shine. It'll be all brown and delicious looking. Alright, then we just got to figure out what we're going to put in these buns. I'm thinking it's going to be like burgers or something along those lines tonight. We'll see. Alright, and that's some sesame seeds. If you don't have sesame seeds, don't worry about it. But I do. And just a good pinch on each one. Okay, 375, 15 to 18 minutes. I'll check back on you. Okay, the timer just went off. I'm gonna pull the buns out of the oven. Oh yeah. Look at those. All right. Looking good. So, look on the bottom. It's not too brown or anything. They're really hot. They just came out of the oven. So what I'm going to do is, you can test the doneness by tapping on them. And if it sounds hollow, they're done. Hear that? Those are done. Okay, so I'm going to let these cool, and then I'll be back later, and we're going to make some, I don't know, something, and we'll put it between these buns. Alright, enjoy.